Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Lawrence Jones takes Governor Wes Moore to task, reminding him that his policies don't exactly match up with his rhetoric. Let's dive in.
Mr. Governor, I know people go back and forth in the politics and Donald Trump and all this, but this is what the locals are saying. This is not some partisan thing.
Well, I mean, my heart breaks for that woman in Curtis Bay. And it breaks for anyone who does not feel safe in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities anywhere in the state of Maryland. And I think the people of the state of Maryland know and have seen through our actions that the number one priority that we have is making sure that people can feel safe in their own neighborhoods, in their own communities, and in their own skin. That we're making sure that people who commit crimes, that they are held accountable for the crimes that they commit, but also that we're improving better systems that are making sure that they are also accountable to actually focusing on rehabilitation and helping people get back into the community with a real pathway for long-term success. And so whether it's a person in Curtis Bay or whether it's a person in Catonsville, they know that their governor is prioritizing their safety.
Pardon my interruption, Governor, but the people of D.C. feel the same way. The people of Philly feel the same way. I'm just curious why you've been so critical of the administration trying to solve this problem. Is it the process that you don't like? Because it looks like they're doing the same thing that you're doing, which is surging resources to the city.
It's because I'm proud to be the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland, and I'm honored to be the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. I stand with the remarkable men and women who have raised their hand, these citizen soldiers, who frankly are trained to fight and win our nation's wars. The people who, in times of emergency and in times of crisis, that I have the unique authority and the unique ability to mobilize them, and where I have done so as the governor of the state of Maryland, whether it is historic floods that we've seen in Western Maryland, or whether it's the fact that I still currently, right now, have men and women who are deployed overseas doing operations. This is something that I take very seriously, particularly as someone who's worn the uniform, particularly as someone who's had to say goodbye to my family, particularly as someone who has had to trust the judgment of the commander-in-chief, knowing that the decision that they made was one that had not just the best interests of the national security in mind, but the best interests of me and my family. And so all I'm saying is this, is if we want to have a serious conversation about violent crime, we can have a serious conversation about violent crime. And I would love to be able to share the multitude of things that we are doing in the state of Maryland, where we are surging support for local law enforcement, surging support for predictive analytics and technologies, surging supports for community groups, and allowing more supports for the mayor and the county executive and the people on the ground doing the work. And we were able to receive some really encouraging and historic results in Baltimore and around the state of Maryland. And I never once had to mobilize the National Guard in order to accomplish those feats.
Governor, it's a different war now. There's more brothers dying here in these cities than overseas. So isn't it fair to have them there? And it's Democrats that agree with this measure. Don't take my word for it. The local cop there, the police chief, agrees with this. The mayor of the city agrees with this. And it's because people that look like me and you are dying.
No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities. No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities, urban, rural, and suburban, who are being besieged by this issue of gun violence, who's being besieged by this issue of chronically and generationally not feeling safe inside of your neighborhoods. And it's the reason that we have made it our top priority to make sure that people are feeling safe. But I can tell you right now, what people want more than anything in those communities is they don't want performative, they want performance, right? They're not looking for someone to walk around with military fatigues and a big gun. They're looking for someone who actually understands how to make people feel safe and how to make people actually safe in their communities. Our National Guards are not trained for this. I'm very specific about my role as Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard, and we know the missions that they are trained for, and municipal policing is not one of them.
So I'll tell you
and so
this.
if we want to be serious about making people safe, let's actually do the things that make people safe.
I'm way over time, Governor. I'll do two things. I would ask you, this is going to be only for 30 days until Congress gets involved. So let's see the results. If the results are true, then we stay with it. But I would also ask you, can I come to Baltimore with you? I want to visit the community with you. I've been there many times. We'll walk the block together, and we'll figure out all the programs that you have suggested. I would love to meet all of them. But I also want to see the metrics as well. I want the impact to be there, and I hope you'll take me up on that offer.
I would be honored to take you up on that offer. We are walking our streets all over the state all the time, and I also know that when you look at this, the cost of this National Guard deployment, we also have to understand there's a real cost to it, not just a financial cost, but also an opportunity cost, because when we have real tragedies and real disasters that our National Guard has to respond to, they're not going to be able to because they are currently doing municipal policing operations, and that's not right.
I got to go, Governor, but there's a disaster happening right now. And we got to focus on the crisis right now. All right, brother. I'll see you soon. Governor, I appreciate the time.
That little laugh right there at the end from Governor Wes Moore is almost chilling because there's no reason for a laugh there. All right? He can't dismiss the words outright because he knows he doesn't get the last word, which is one of the more important things when you have one of these interviews. And Wes Moore's a Democrat. And he's a pretty slick one at that. I actually have to tip my cap to him. This dude understands how to use his rhetoric properly. He does a very good job of it here. What he doesn't do is admit the fact that, yes, as a matter of fact, this is basically the same thing that we had in Iraq after a CIA operative came in and screwed up everything. We had to have a major surge in Iraq just in order to bring down the level of violence. We had already achieved all of our military goals. One dude screwed everything up. And now we have a similar situation where no one's holding anyone accountable in Washington, D.C., either at the federal level or at the local level. And so Donald Trump has finally said, you know what, I've seen enough. We've had too many former government employees complain about this. And lo and behold, even other Democrats are whispering in the corner, thank God Donald Trump did this, because they do not feel safe walking to their apartments around Capitol Hill. Sorry, not to their apartments. There aren't too many apartments near Capitol Hill. But to their very closed-in, smaller housing units. Very quaint housing, by the way. It's a very pretty area just to walk through. But you go a couple of blocks too far, all of a sudden you're in Navy Yard, and that can go either way. You go a few blocks too far north of some of the federal buildings, and all of a sudden the neighborhood starts getting weirder. You go a few blocks too many to the eastern side, and the neighborhood starts getting less and less fun. There are problems in the security of Washington, D.C., and Trump using the National Guard isn't just within his purview, it is quite literally usable under almost any circumstance. It can be opaque. And so Wes Moore is saying, well, I've never had to deploy the National Guard. Well, good for you. Congratulations. Instead, his rhetoric, however, doesn't meet his actions. These are his actions so far. In his first budget, Governor Moore invested $11 billion into MCAC to expand staffing and invest in technological infrastructure. Since the beginning of this year, MCAC has worked with more than 275 federal, state, and local agencies in Maryland and around the country on a wide range of issues, from homicides to robberies to fraud to retail theft. It's kind of important that they put that in there. This year in Baltimore, MCAC investigative support for the Baltimore City Police Department has increased by 23%. So increase the funding, increase the amount of people, and increase different areas that we didn't fund properly last time around. That's good. That is a good thing. Thank you, Governor Moore, for looking out after the people of your state. I don't really like the function of your state in terms of what it's like systematically, because remember, Maryland's one of those Democrat states where there's a bunch of wealthy people subsidizing all the poor people, and there's not a real middle class. But the reality is, the Democratic Party has done a complete 180, and they've actually tweaked some things along the way in order to make themselves actually better at governing. They have gone from defund the police to increase the funding and let's start changing our technological sector so we can start protecting businesses again. Democrats are starting to realize that they can no longer look at themselves and rest on their laurels. They have to go in a new direction, which is the very direction the Republican Party has been telling them to go for decades. But now, because it's so politically expedient, Democrats like Wes Moore is doing the job properly. But again, there's something almost sinister about this whole thing. Because on one hand, he's very happy to come on and talk with Lawrence Jones and have a wonderful conversation, which this actually was. But towards the end, there were a couple of times where he either froze like, "How dare you remind me of my race, sir, when we are both of the same race?" He had this brief look on his face, and it's blink and you'll miss it. But he got angry that Lawrence Jones is a conservative black man. Okay? You probably didn't see it, but you saw the slight freeze and tension of the shoulders, the eyes locked, and the nostrils briefly flared. That's classic body language of, oh, how dare he go here. Okay? And that's a line that a whole lot of Democrats need to understand that is being crossed constantly. There's a lot of Democrat men, that, particularly in the black community, that are starting to look around and go, we don't like the Democrats anymore. We might want to start voting Republican. And I know that they came out for Donald Trump in 2024. And with those numbers rising, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in 2028. And of course, in these midterms, which has caused the Democrat Party to do this giant 180. I just read off a fantastic list of things that a Democrat-run state is now doing in order to clamp down on crime. Baltimore, before Governor Moore, because again, this is his first budget. I think he just got elected. He knows that he has to reform some things, and he has to make sure that the state of Maryland is thriving, and he needs to make sure that the state of Maryland is safe. If he doesn't do these two things, they're going to lean more and more to the GOP. And so the Democrats are doing what they should have been doing all along, and it's exactly following suit after Republicans start cleaning up the mess. And of course, he has to call up and talk about Donald Trump, even though the Democrats of that city are kind of thankful that he is doing what he's doing. This is how you make policing better for the American people, and even Democrats are starting to realize that their old rhetorical ways don't work the same way anymore. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.